the DNA evidence points in various directions, actually. A lot of evidence does point to Asia, so there's certainly some who came from Asia. There's a recent tie that's been made by some professors over in California suggesting that Polynesians came here rather than the other way around, which is what Thor Heyerdahl had believed. But there are evidences actually for immigrations from various parts of the Old World, most of them from the Orient, but there's some also from the Mediterranean basin, including land of Israel, Egypt, and so on. Book of Mormon does not exclude other people from those who came to the New World. And we've had a number of LDS scholars, prominent LDS scholars, as well as a number of general authorities in the early days of the 20th century who specifically stated that we Latter-day Saints should not believe that the Nephites and the Lamanites and Jaredites and the Mulekites were the only ones who came to the American continent, but in fact that there were many who came from other places, and they even allowed that, yes, Asiatics could easily have crossed the Bering Strait, as has been believed, and could account for a lot of the population of Native Americans. For example, Sherem, we're told that Sherem, who came to speak with Jacob, had his big discussion with him. He's introduced by the words, "There came a man among the people of Nephi." Came a man among the people of Nephi. Sounds like he wasn't of the people of Nephi, and yet he was clearly expert in their language. In fact, Jacob specifically states that he was expert in the language of the Nephites. Well, you wouldn't say that of a native speaker. All native speakers are expert in their language, but it would suggest that here's a man whose native tongue was not the one used by the Nephites, and yet he knew Nephite well. He had learned it, and therefore he was able to convince some people, dissuade them from their religious things. I also see idolatry as a good sign in the Book of Mormon of other people being neighbors to the Nephites. You don't just give up a belief in a God who created the earth and everything else and switch to worshiping a stone or a wooden carving or something like that. This is not an idea. I can't imagine a Christian or a Jew of today believing in the Bible and in the God of the Bible suddenly deciding that he's going to worship idols. It would have to come from somebody else. You'd have to learn that from somebody who was already worshiping these idols. And so that to me tells me that there were other people who passed that on. John Sorensen, whom you know, has written a wonderful article asking the question, when Lehi's party arrived in the land, did they find others there? It was in the Journal of Book of Mormon Studies, and I think it's a must-read. Everybody has to look at that. He discusses a lot of the evidence for other people being here even before the Nephites arrived.